If you want to watch anime like Mob Psycho 100, ReZero, and the upcoming new season of Attack on Titan, check it out over on Verve's Crunchyroll app built into Verve, so you don't have to even have Crunchyroll. Just get the combo pack, and that includes all the features within Verve, and it doesn't crash. This thing's only crashed on me once in years that I've used it. Check out Verve, try it out for free, vrv.co/geekdom. Try it for free now. Avengers Endgame, movie number 22 in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the finale of the Infinity Saga and the finale of Phase 3. And finality is the right way to describe this film. Even though we know for certain that Phase 4 is coming, even though Phase 4, we've already got the Far From Home movie coming out this summer, and of course more coming out in the future, this movie has a definite sense of finality to it. Basically, if they wanted to end the MCU here, like let's say this is the last movie ever, it would undoubtedly be a satisfying conclusion. So this is my non-spoiler review. I am not going to go into spoilers here in this review. I will be doing my spoiler review tomorrow here on World of Geekdom, because I know a lot of you guys are going to go see it tomorrow and this weekend, and I don't want to talk about spoilers until you see the movie, even though I will give you a spoiler warning when that video comes up, and I'm not going to have any spoilerific titles or anything. We're going to start with the non-spoiler for those of you who want to see this movie and don't want to be spoiled. So yes, obviously if you're an MCU fan, you're going to go see this movie. I don't have to tell you to go see it. We've been building up for such a long time, from Iron Man 1 in 2008 all the way to Avengers Endgame. Of course, the Russo brothers, Anthony and Joe Russo, are back directing it, and it's written masterfully by Stephen McFeely and Christopher Marcus. Some of the best writing, I would say, of any MCU movie. This is right up there with, Winter Soldier, Civil War, as far as the quality of writing, because the movie takes so many twists and turns that are unexpected, and some of them are expected. Like if you've read comics and if you're familiar with these kind of stories, you kind of know where things are going, you know who can do what, and if you pay attention, here's the important thing, if you have paid attention to the MCU, you will get rewarded. If you're one of those people that marathoned all 21 other MCU movies, you are rewarded for seeing that in this movie, because there's tons of, let's call them Easter eggs, homages, whatever you want to call them, to the previous films and more. And I'm not going to get into it because, again, we're trying to avoid spoilers here. But if you haven't seen the other movies, I don't feel like the emotional weight and impact of this movie is going to hit you quite as much. But if you've been following these characters for whatever period of time, whether it be the full 11 years, or maybe you got into it late, or maybe in 2012, or wherever you fell into the MCU, if you eventually, go back and watch them all. And when this comes out on Blu-ray and 4K, I think a lot of us are going to go back and do the entire marathon. And I think it'll be very satisfying when you do it like that. That being said, though, this movie I thought was an epic conclusion, about as epic as it can get with the MCU Infinity Saga, but it is not a perfect film. Now, unfortunately, I can't go into my nitpicks really here without going into spoilers. I really can't. One of the big complaints of the movie is that it's too long. That's BS. In my opinion, it's BS. I don't really understand why people are like talking about how, oh, you gotta be careful with your bathroom breaks. Like, have people not ever seen 3-hour movies? I sat through all the Lord of the Rings movies. I've been to 7-hour wrestling shows and only taken a piss once. I mean, I sat there watching Endgame for the full 3 hours and didn't go to the bathroom not even once. I refilled my drink right before the movie started, and that was enough for me for the entire film, because it just blitzes by. There's no real boring stuff in the movie. There's no scene at all that I thought was boring, but there is a build-up. And it's interesting how this whole thing is structured, because the first hour of the movie, of the 3-hour movie, the first hour is very much, kind of picking up the pieces. Like, man, like we have to recover from what Thanos did in Infinity War. Then the second hour is like more of an adventure story. Then the third hour is just complete madness, just complete chaos in a good way. It definitely felt, I was feeling vibes from Return of the Jedi. I was feeling vibes from Return of the King, like that kind of epic finale, right? That you expect from these kind of like, trilogies. Even though this is not a trilogy, this is movie 22, you're getting that here. And it definitely had this. Is this the best comic book movie of all time? I don't know. I'm not sure yet. I have to really go back and watch it again before I give you my final verdict on that. But I will say this, it's definitely the most comic bookish of all the comic book movies. There are scenes in this movie that literally feel like they were pulled out of a comic book. The way that the Russos composed their shots, the way that they sort of had the angles, the way they kind of did their fight scenes, really did feel like a comic book. The way they cut and things like that, it did feel that like that. Now, that being said, one of the issues that they had in this movie is that during the climax, without going into spoilers, like I said, there's a lot going on, and they don't really give anything too much time. Now, again, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, because you don't want this movie to drag on for it to be 4 hours, right? But there are certain characters you see doing this, and then they kind of cut away to other characters without really seeing what happens with these characters. And it's fine, because they had to cram a lot in here. Lots of fan service, and not in a bad way. Lots of storylines that are concluded here. I mean, they actually blew off storylines. They finished off storylines that started all the way with Iron Man 1 and Captain America 1. Like, stuff from Phase 1 was referenced here all the way back. Avengers, it really is the movie does feel like a big I love you letter to the entire MCU. Even though the Russos did not direct every MCU film, they only directed 4 of them. You had a lot of different directors involved and creative minds and whatnot. They definitely showed so much respect to the previous films. Even the ones that aren't very well liked got lots of love in this movie. As far as performances go, acting, everybody is totally fantastic. I gotta put over certain people though. Karen Gillan, is it Gillian or Gillan? Well, Gillan, you know who I'm talking about. Nebula, she is great in this movie, and what they do with her character is amazing. Paul Rudd nails it, in my opinion, as Ant-Man. This is my favorite Paul Rudd performance as Ant-Man. He brings the comedy, but he also brings the emotion when necessary, and lots of it. Jeremy Renner is so good in this movie. And let me just put some stuff to bed here, okay? Captain Marvel. Brie Larson was more likable in this movie than in the entire Captain Marvel film. And those of you who are worried about her being overpowered and taking up too much screen time, don't even worry about it. If you are a fan of Captain Marvel, she does a lot of really badass things in this movie. She has a lot of great moments to shine, but the movie's not about her, and she's surprisingly not in it as much as I thought she would be. This film is about the original 6 Avengers: Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, Thor, Black Widow, and Hawkeye. And understand that one of the brilliant things about this script is that every character got an arc. All 6 of the original Avengers, and other characters too, don't get me wrong, there are other characters too, got an arc in this movie. And that was just so well written that they all got a chance to kind of have a story told where they're one way in point A, and by point B they're different people. And that's the interesting thing about this movie, is that yes, this is not the end of the MCU, but the way they set things up for the future has me really curious, because I'm wondering what they're going to do with certain characters going forward and with the universe, because the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to be different after Endgame. Things have changed. I thought Josh Brolin as Thanos was absolutely fantastic. Again, in this movie, what a great villain. And really, what I loved is Infinity War was about Thanos. It was sort of his quest. He was the main character. This movie's all about the original Avengers. He's in it. He has a major role to play in this movie, but it's not as much screen time as in the previous one. The last movie was pretty much the Thanos quest. If you know comics, you know what I'm talking about. This one was really kind of the Avengers quest to try to fix the issues that happened after the snap. And it really makes you wonder, with the snap, the first hour of this film sort of portrays this post-apocalyptic world of what happens after the snap, and how can people live in this kind of world. And it's kind of scary because there's obviously been prophecies for years that something like that could happen in our world, with the rapture and things like that. And so it's kind of like a comic book version of Left Behind, you know what I mean, except way more action-packed and with way better acting. Way better acting. But that's the beginning, and then as the movie progresses, we start to get more and more comic booky, and then you have this huge, crazy, insane, finale that I'm not going to spoil. But very satisfying ending. That it really does finish a lot of the storylines. It really does give you a satisfying conclusion, but also it opens up new storylines. Again, I'm not going to talk about it, but I am curious about where they go with some of these characters in Phase 4. And I hope they don't just forget about them because, and I doubt they will, because there's a lot of story that's left to be told. But it's just so, I mean, the last hour of this movie really is that crazy. It's just madness to the point where it's like a controlled frenzy. Like there's so much going on that I feel like I'm going to go back and watch it again and kind of pick up on more things that I missed the first time, more satisfying things. But man, there are some great moments, a lot of emotion in this film, and the themes of this movie, it has so many themes, a lot like Civil War. It really focuses on family, really focuses on our loved ones, both our children, our wife or husband, as well as our parents. And it's really interesting to see where things go with those, and you'll know when you see the movie, with those three things. Like it really focuses on family and strong friendships. That was a theme that gets repeated over and over and over and over again in Avengers Endgame, and it really puts out a message that we really need to, as a society. And I know it's hard because the world is not a nice place, but it really makes you appreciate your family, your friends, those that love you. Like the movie really hammers home how much we have to appreciate what we have. Because, hey, I'm not saying that there's going to be a snap like Thanos, but you never know what could happen. You never know what kind of tragedy could happen to somebody who you love. So always, appreciate them and show them that you care. It really does hammer that home. There's some things in the movie that there are some contradictions and some nitpicks that I can't really get into. But again, when you're dealing with comic book movies and some of the themes in this film, some of the ideas in this film, you're going to have weird things that don't make too much sense. But again, maybe I'm missing something. I'm going to be very honest with you. I've only seen the movie one time. Maybe I got to go back and watch it again and get explained. But so delightful. Such a delightful movie. People were saying that it's kind of tonally weird that, I saw some reviews that were talking about how the comedy's out of place. I disagree. I don't think there's any moment in this movie where the comedy was out of place. I did not feel that watching this movie at all. I know some folks are going to think so. I didn't. Also, this whole thing about crying, I did not cry during the movie, but I rarely cry during movies. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to cry. Okay, because some people just cry and some don't. Everybody's different. And we shouldn't judge those who cry and judge those who don't cry. I did come close at least 3 times. There were 3 times in the movie where I came close, where I felt that emotion, that tingly emotion in my heart. But I didn't actually bust out bawling. But there were people in the movie theater who did, without question. I can tell you this. There are lots of really fun surprises, and the set pieces, especially the one for the grand finale, is so amazing. Like, look, if you're out there and you're worried about Secret Wars, if that's where Kevin Feige decides to go next with the MCU, if Secret Wars is the next big finale, you have nothing to worry about. This movie proved that they can do Secret Wars or any big, crossover story and make it work. They proved it here because of the cinematography, because of the actual appreciation for Stan Lee's vision and the other writers like Jim Starlin. All the great writers of Marvel comic book past were kind of shown a lot of love here. And if they take this formula of the Russos and bring back Marcus and McFeely to do Secret Wars, I know it'll be a good movie. It's just, these guys just keep producing good content after good content after good content. I love the movie. I really do. Is it my favorite MCU movie? I'm going to go see it again before I give final judgment on that, because I like seeing movies more than once. Civil War was my number 1, and it might get knocked off the top, but as far as emotion goes and just complete insanity and entertainment and directing, this is a great movie. Not flawless by any means, but so much fun, such a blast, and you're gonna like it. I think people are gonna be satisfied with this film, and I think people are going to really enjoy this finale, and you're gonna be curious about what's to come, because there is a lot more things coming. We know there's more MCU coming, but I'm wondering what's going to happen after this, because it's very interesting. So I'm going to be doing a spoiler review tomorrow, and I'm going to be doing a stream Most likely, I can't promise anything, sometime this weekend, maybe early next week, I will, of course, do it here on World of Geekdom, and probably a discussion on the Geekdom 101 podcast with Draven. I might just upload that onto here as well so you guys have it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I might just do it on here. I haven't decided yet, but I'm going to talk more about this film in the next few days. So, and I want to talk to all of you about it as well. So make sure you're there for that stream whenever I decide to do it. If you can't be, it's okay. The replay will be up, but it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching my review, and enjoy the movie. And I'll be back tomorrow with the spoiler.